Hi everybody, it's Dr. B. I'm back to do another reading. Today's reading is going to be a little bit different. This is just something that came to me, and so I'm going to just go ahead and roll with it. I don't have a format. I'm just doing as I'm instructed by Spirit. And this reading is an as above, so below reading. And the reason for that, so you understand the context, is that a lot of what happens in our situations, in our lives, in our world, happens in the spiritual before it happens on earth. So oftentimes you'll hear things like readers, myself included, say things like what is happening with the divine masculine or what's happening with the divine feminine, but it doesn't seem that way in your interactions or what you know of them or of yourself. And there's sometimes generates some confusion. So the way that I like to describe it is that it's like water going downhill. The water can begin flowing if you think about a waterfall, and it takes time from the water to fall over the edge of the waterfall and then until it hits the bottom. And that's what happens in the spiritual. Things happen, things are accomplished, things change in the spiritual, often significantly before they happen on earth. So this message is all about like what's really happening in the spiritual and how do we know that that's happening on the earth. So I'm going to be using the Book of Shadows Tarot that's going to help us to understand that. So if this reading sounds interesting to you, stay plugged in and I will go ahead and get started. Spirit, please use me as a clear channel for communication. May the messages that come through be in the highest good of all those concerned. I draw a sacred circle around this space, setting my ego to the outside. May the messages that come through be in the highest good of all those concerned. And so it is. So I'm going to start with the as above deck. And as you can hear, I've been shuffling. So I'm just going to cut it and go ahead and pull 3 cards for what's going on with twin flame divine love connections in the upper world. So we have the first card is Omens, the 6 of air, and the 6 of water. Interesting. So Omens, that would be like the Tower card, excuse me, in the traditional tarot. So whatever's going on is creating, there is some signs and omens and things that are happening that people might be seeing. Omens can be, depending on your belief system, but omens can be things like, sometimes people will say like hearing an owl hooting outside your window can be an omen. It can also be things like, what am I thinking of? Well, it just really depends on your belief system. But the long and short of it is that you see things or you get indications, okay? You get inclinations that things are happening. And that's what this is, what's going on, is that in the spiritual realm, Spirit is trying to give people who aren't in alignment, who aren't following their truth, who aren't pursuing the things that the divine has sent them to pursue, are getting signs. Omens. This can be things like having nightmares, a sense that there's some kind of trouble ahead. So people are really feeling it in a spiritual sense. People might be having nightmares. They might be having premonitions. They might be having just thoughts popping into their head, visions of things happening that are not positive or that they fear. And that's Spirit's way of warning, saying, look, get prepared, get ready, because if you haven't taken action and on the things that you've been guided to do, sometimes Spirit will take action for you. That's what divine intervention is. Sometimes if you've avoided facing what you need to face and doing the work that you need to do, there will come an external situation that really forces you into dealing with that, into facing it. Not in a bad way, because this is not, I don't even like the word forces. It really is just kind of opens your eyes to things that you've been not seeing before. And it's for your highest good. When these things happen, tower moments, although people hate them by and large, when tower moments happen, they happen for our highest good. They happen to bring us to our higher selves. Sometimes they bring us to our knees so that we can see what we've been avoiding, see the things that we need to face. When we have those difficulties, those shattering experiences, it really allows us to make different choices about how we're living our lives. The other thing that people are seeing right now in the spirit world, the spirit realm, we have the Six of Air. This is the Six of Swords. This is I think this card came up yesterday in the reading about being between spaces. Okay, so whoever this is pertaining to, you, your counterpart, both of you, it really, what it's saying is that people are feeling that liminal space of not where I used to be, but I'm not quite where I'm going. There's still some steps that I need to take. There's still some things that are happening. I'm on this road trip and I'm not where I was, but I'm not where I'm going. And so I'm still in the in-between, betwixt. That's the space where people are right now. And they can feel it. And why it's happening in the spiritual realm is because it needs to happen first, as in, what does this say? The prayer in heaven, on earth as it is in heaven. And so when things are happening and aligning up in the spiritual, then it makes it easier to translate down into the natural. And so there may be people who have been resistant to moving forward. There may be people who have been staying in the space that they've been in, not going toward the space that they need to go toward. And now it's happening in the spiritual. They're seeing it, they're feeling it, things are moving, things are shifting, even if they're resisting it. And part of this is because there's some unfinished business from the past. This is the card of someone from your past coming back. This is looking back at the past with fondness, with nostalgia, and often having to resolve things from the past. So if there is unfinished business, if there are things, words that have been unspoken, things that have been left unsaid, it's time to resolve that. It's time to fix it, to heal it, to come into right connection once and for all. This is not, well, I guess I really can't say once and for all because people have free will, but what Spirit is trying to get people to do is to get into alignment, to get into a space where people feel like they can go forward in their lives with this connection, with a sense of peace. Okay, it's time to release. I mentioned this in the full moon and Virgo reading that I did, that it's time to release the past. It's time to let things go and to transform. And people need to do that. That eclipse was at a 0 point. It's a fresh start. We cannot have a fresh start when we're carrying in crap from the past. It's just not the way that it works. We need to release energy and move things forward in a healthy, productive, conscious way. I'm not talking about just discarding people. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in just casting people or energies or circumstances that aside. I believe that we have to be grateful for each lesson and each experience that was brought to us, even if it was painful, because by and large, even the painful experiences, I might even go so far as to say that we learn the most in the painful experiences, because it kind of forces us to our knees and makes us have to deal with the things that we would otherwise avoid. So overall, what I'm feeling is just that Spirit is saying, look, it's time for things to happen. It's time for things to fall apart and to move forward. And people are sensing it and feeling it in the spiritual. That's just it. They're feeling it in the spiritual realm. There may be even signs and indications that that's happening in the spiritual realm. If you're not in connection with your counterpart, you may not know what they're experiencing, but you may be experiencing it. You may be feeling things that are either currently falling apart in the spirit, where you're like, wow, why is this happening? Or you're seeing things that seem to be not working. And it's because it's time. It's time for any structures that are not built for your highest good to come crashing down so that you can move into the next phase of where you're meant to be. We are all meant to serve a purpose on this earth, and if we're engaging in things or we're caught up in cycles that don't allow us to become that, it's going to eventually come crashing down. So let's see how this is being mirrored in the earth side, on the as below side. So we've got the Chariot, Judgment, 2 major arcana just right out the gate, and the 4 of Swords. So Chariot, this is forward movement, okay? This is people, situations taking taking giant steps forward. So things that might have been on pause for you for a while in the physical reality, maybe you felt like there were some things that you wanted to have happen and they weren't happening, or it felt like things were falling apart and there was some misalignment. Well, now it's time. This card is saying that things are starting to go forward quickly again. So I feel like for a lot of people, there may be some questions about feeling like things are falling apart and yet still feeling like things are moving forward. The falling apart is part of that process. Sometimes we will disconnect from circumstances, energies, people, situations, like the tower moments that aren't in our highest good or that are not aligned with where we're headed. Okay, so if people start falling out of your life or things start shifting and you're like, what's going on? Why is this happening? Don't fret. What part of what it is and what Spirit just said to me is like cutting off the dead weight. When you start to evolve and transform in your life, not everybody can go with you. When you up level in your consciousness, not everybody that can go with you. And so you might see friends not calling, just relationships that seem disconnected, spiritual communities that no longer feel aligned, and you might be feeling that sense of like spiritual homelessness, where you're like, I don't really feel like I belong anywhere, I don't feel like I'm anchored anywhere. Well, Spirit is saying, but don't despair. This is a really powerful message. I can feel it, like the energy coursing through my body right now. Don't despair if things seem to be falling apart, because why it's falling apart, it's shedding the weight for you to move into something bigger quickly. If it's dead weight, if it's hangers on, if it's people, energies, circumstances that are not serving you and they just weigh you down, or their energy is no longer in alignment with you, then you just say thank you, like Ariana Grande, thank you, next. Literally just thank you, next. Don't feel bad. Release them with blessing. This happens a lot, in the social media era. If you're on social media, sometimes you'll see that your follower list falls, or people that you were friends with or connections unfriend you or whatever, and you feel it. Sometimes people take that really personally, and they're like, wow, that person unfriended me, or I lost followers or whatever, and start to wonder, what did they do? What do they need to do differently? So on and so forth. And that's ego-based thinking. We just got to release that and say thank you for being with me during this phase of the journey, but I understand that I'm up-leveling and moving forward in a rapid way, and so I appreciate you being here during the time that you were here, and may be blessed on your journey, and release them with love and let them go, because right now it's you're prepping for movement. What I'm feeling here is like I keep seeing like racetracks, like people when there's a racetrack. I'm not a racetrack type person, so my analogies might not be perfect, but after a few laps, the race car driver pulls into the pit and they fix things. They replace tires, they put oil, they do all these things really, really rapidly to get the car ready to go for the next round. So for a lot of people right now, you're in a pit. And I don't mean that you're like a pit stop, okay? You're in a pit stop right now. Spirit is replacing your wheels and putting some more oil in your spiritual car, and shining up your windows, giving you some water, whatever it is that you need to be ready for the next lap, because this next lap is going to be, and the next few laps are going to be what's going to take you to victory. And so you have to have the right equipment. You have to be prepared. If you didn't have this moment of pause to be able to rejuvenate and restore, you might not be able to survive the rest of the race. And so if you're feeling like you're in a pause, excuse me, be sure that you just recognize that that's exactly where you need to be. Don't feel bad. Judgment. This is a rebirth, guys. This literally, this is one of those readings where I'm like, you can't make this shit up. This is a rebirth. People are in the space that they're in right now is because they're being reborn. This is the Chrysalis Phase. You're not flying out of your cocoon yet because you're not ready. It's not time. Recognize that when it's time, it will be, you'll fly and you'll soar. But you have to just trust that this is part of what's going on, that you're getting prepared to fly. You're getting ready to take this dynamic forward movement into your life, into the next phase, but you have to be ready. And this Judgment card is literally about a rebirth. It's like resurrection. It's like coming out of the darkness, seeing things in a new way, seeing the world in a new light, and the world seeing you in a new light as well. This is like really being, awakening. This is a spiritual awakening. For some of you, it's going to be a physical reawakening where you're going to make changes all around holistically in your life, where you may not even be, you might see the world very differently after that. You're going to see the world very differently. Sorry, I need to clarify that. And as a result, it's going to shift the way that you show up in the world. A lot of you are starting to see that, and you're starting to feel that. And how that is, and remember, remember we had the Six of Swords, Six of Air card, which is traditionally in the traditional tarot depicted as a person in, like, three people in a ship going across the water. It's between spaces. And that's what I'm seeing here, is that being between, where the judgment is coming, the rebirth is happening, the resurrection is coming. There's transitions, there's renewal. There is some redemption, okay? I like the word redemption. One of my favorite books is it's a book called Redeeming Love, and it's by a lady named Francine Rivers. It's a Christian themed book, so if you're not into religion, if you read it, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not a religious person, but I like the message. It's actually one of the readings that I recommend for the Twin Flame journey. And I think it gives a really great understanding of this journey and of this concept. But there's redemption that is ahead for you. Redemption is about, if you've had things happen in the past where you felt were unfair, where you felt like things just didn't work, weren't working out for you in the way that you wanted them to, or maybe you felt like you made some mistakes or you did some things wrong and you're like, man, if I had a chance to do this over again, I would do it differently. Well, some of you are going to have that opportunity. There may also be people, your counterpart. So for instance, if you're in a twin flame connection and your counterpart bailed and ghosted you and didn't treat you well or whatever, there may be an opportunity to have some redemption in that, where it's like forgiveness, releasing yourself and other people from the situation, and really being restored. Okay, that's the word that wants to come through, is restoration. That things that have felt like they were taken or stolen from you, there will be restoration and redemption. So don't fret. If you feel like you have been wronged, or you have been wronged, or people have harmed you, and you feel like things are not working in your favor, it will. Okay, the trouble that you've been through as you've continued to persevere and do the work. See, the thing is that it's easy to do, it's easy to be in high, like using some of the New Age terms, high vibe and everything is awesome kind of energy when everything's going well. When you're in the dark night of the soul, when you're in the shadow period where things don't seem to be going well, if you can still be thankful and grateful and still search for the light in the darkness, that's what separates, as the saying goes, the men from the boys, the women from the girls. That's what separates immaturity from maturity, is that an immature type of energy can only be happy when things look exactly the way that they think that they should look. Maturity is when you understand in the spiritual dimension that things are happening for your highest good, even if you don't see it in the earthly realm, and then you can be grateful and satisfied and joyful in that anyway. Right now, the Four of Swords is a card of rest. It's like you just been through this Three of Swords experience, which is, if you recall the traditional tarot, a heart with three swords piercing it, not a good time. Very painful. A lot of times that can be related to betrayal. Someone stabbing you through the heart. When I see three, of course, I always think of like the saying, three's company, right? Three's a crowd. This is particularly resonant if you are with were with somebody or are in love with somebody who chose somebody else, or who cheated on you, or who betrayed you. That shit takes its toll. Let's just be very honest about it. It takes its toll to be in that kind of situation. It takes its toll to be to have infidelity in your relationship or with somebody that you care about. I remember reading a book. This was when I was still in grad school. It was a long time ago. And there was a woman, gosh, I wish I could remember. If I can remember the title, or if I can find it on my bookshelf, I'll tell you what it is in the comments. But there was a woman who had been married to her husband, for 50 or 60 years, and had been through a significant trauma, a seriously traumatic experience, and was telling her therapist that the husband's infidelity was the most painful thing she'd ever been through, even though she'd been through an extremely traumatic experience. And so I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to trigger anybody with that. So if people choose to go and look for that, that's fine. But I'm just trying to be conscious of people's sensitivities and painful spots. So that's why I'm not mentioning what tragedy she had experienced. But infidelity, unfaithfulness, people cheating, lying, deceiving can be very painful. And so after that happens, people need to recover, and it takes time. Okay, it's not like you can just recover overnight from somebody betraying you or hurting you or causing you that kind of pain. It takes time, and it takes effort. You can't just say like, oh, well, people say all the time, like, time heals all wounds, but it really doesn't. If you're not doing anything with the time, if you're sitting there and you're like not using that time consciously, or you're not actively engaging in your own healing, then you can stay stuck forever. I literally know people who stayed stuck in situations that happened and very, very young in their life, and they continue to hold on to it. So it's super important to remember that it takes time to recover. And so for a lot of people in this earthly experience, you've been feeling like things are not moving ahead, things are not going forward. I don't necessarily see this chariot type of energy, even though readers on YouTube, and I've gotten personal readings, and they're saying that this is happening, but I'm not seeing it. Part of it is because you're in the rest period. You're healing. You're being restored, okay? You're being transformed in this. And so what I see with this is that it's very close at hand. And this is saying, be prepared. If there's things that you need to do to get ready, make sure that you're getting ready. I'm going to move this aside and kind of look a little bit further into the energies. So what is going on in particular with the masculine energy in the upper world, spirit world? We have the Nine of Fire. This is like the Nine of Wands. This is dynamic. Wait, let me think. Sorry. I lost my train of thought. This is the Nine of Wands is about being really in, Wands are about passion. They're about creativity, spirituality. This is what's happening here is that the masculine energy is facing some adversity in their life, in spirituality, in their spiritual experience, but they're standing strong. They're holding their ground. They're not giving in. They're not going to cave. Okay, they're really going to continue to stay strong and trying to do the right thing. How is that mirroring in the earth dimension? You've got to be, you guys, I swear you can't make this stuff up. The Eight of Wands. The Eight of Wands is about forward movement. So what I'm seeing here is that the masculine energy has been through some stuff, has been through some difficulties, and has had to stand strong through that. They've had to stand their ground, and they've had to really, so the Seven of Wands is overcoming adversity. So we have the Eight and Nine of Wands. So right before this, we have adversity, we have conflict, we've got jealousy, things like that. And then we have the Eight of Wands, which is about really looking at having cleared a lot of the struggle, having cleared, I feel like, some karmic energy, some old emotional baggage, really release a lot of things, and creating the freedom in this space to move forward, feeling more confident and feeling strong. That's what the masculine is dealing with right now, that they've really had to overcome and stand strong. And now they're ready to move forward because they have done a lot of that clearing energy, a lot of that clearing work. So what is the feminine dealing with right now? We have the Goddess. I freaking love this. That is in the spirit. And then in the earthly realm, we have the Knave of Pentacles. So the Goddess, are you guys kidding me right now? Like, seriously? So the feminines are really, this would be what would be the Empress in the traditional tarot, I believe. Yes. So this is the energy of really being in a space of power and passion and confidence and knowing who you are and not feeling like you need to compromise, and really that you're just, when I see the Empress is nurturing. The Empress is sort of the embodiment of all of the different queens. So the Empress is the embodiment of the Queen of Cups and the Queen of Pentacles and the Queen of Wands and the Queen of Swords. And so that it's this whole type of feminine energy, goddess energy of, I know who I am, I know what I bring to the table, I know my own power, I know my own beauty and strength, and this unapologetic, really just understanding. I feel like the feminines are really understanding just how much has been given to create this space. You don't become an empress just because you are, you want to be. It takes effort. It takes discipline. Even people, when you think about people that are born into literal royalty, there's training. It's not like they just become the the king or the queen or the Dutch or duchess just because there's training, there's protocol, there's things that they have to learn. And so for a lot of the feminines are like, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I've really been working through that. I've really worked a lot in this energy and feeling very, very, very powerful and confident in who I am and what I'm doing. Now, this Knave of Pentacles would be like the Page of Pentacles in the traditional tarot. And this is saying that the feminine right now is in planning mode. This is an energy of being, if you look, this person is like working on their laptop with some gnomes around them. I mean, seems legit, right? So what's happening here is that the feminine is in planning. So for a lot of you, you may be looking at what's next. What's your 6-month plan? What's your 9-month plan? What do you want to do in the short while in the future? There's a lot of energy spent planning and looking at things because you want to be strategic. You want to be able to move forward with a plan. You don't want to just go forward like by flying by the seat of your pants. You want to go forward with an agenda, with clarity, knowing where you're going. This is not setting out on a road trip without a map. The feminines right now, the feminine energy is planning for the future, planning for their own success, and is ready to take this proverbial show on the road, and in the process is really planning things out. How is this going to happen? How is this going to work? And setting the pieces into motion, which is exactly what a nurturing goddess type energy does. The goddess knows where the goddess is going and knows how to get there and knows exactly what strategy to take to do that. So I'm feeling like this very empowered energy from both parties, which I'm really loving. So I want to look at what action is the masculine likely to take toward the feminine. So we have the Crone of Water and the Wheel. I love it. So what I'm seeing here is that there is this energy of, excuse me, of really wanting to really, in this particular deck, this is about holding on to memories. holding on to sweet and positive memories, knowing that there will come a time where it will be important to be able to look back on those memories and to hold on to the sweetness of those memories. This is a card of emotions. What I feel like what the masculine is doing, if you look at this, with the action that the masculine is taking toward the feminine, sorry about the glare, there's this water in a jar. And it's, I feel like the masculine has kind of put the emotions, the energy that they've had toward the feminine in this jar as they've overcome this difficult time. So if your masculine has felt like they were bottled up, like they weren't really able to come forward and communicate in any significant way, it's probably because they haven't been, because they've bottled their emotions up. They needed to not be really super emotional in order to get through where they were trying to go. Sometimes a matter of survival is about learning how to not just follow our emotions, but really how to bottle them up to get through to the next phase. It happens a lot with people that are going through a crisis. They'll kind of shut their emotions off and just make decisions logically. But what I feel like is happening here is that the masculine just kind of shut their feelings into a jar and did whatever they needed to do to get through whatever circumstance that they needed to get through in order to survive to the next phase. Now they're ready to take the lid off of that and start sipping again on the memory, the feelings, the love that they had toward the feminine, and they're ready to bring some cycles to an end. So if your masculine if you've been feeling like there were cycles, or that there are cycles that have been playing out, the masculine energy is really getting ready to release that. The masculine is really in a space of releasing that, bringing that to a close, bringing karmic cycles to an end, ending old behaviors, moving things forward, and ready to spin the wheel of fortune again, ready to take another chance and go toward a new beginning and a new cycle. So let's see what the feminine is likely to do toward the masculine. So we have Earth and the Seven of Pentacles. Very interesting, because Pentacles and the Earth are about physical, earthly manifestations. And so I feel like with this coming forward with the feminine, it's really saying that the feminine is ready to bring some things to fruition in the earth space. It's not enough to just be in the spiritual. The feminine is ready to have these dreams and these manifestations coming to pass literally on the earth realm. And so I feel like for a lot of the feminines, there could be this energy of really kind of coming into a space of, I'm ready to have this happen in the real world. Are you ready to have this happen as well? Because if not, I'm going to have to make some different decisions and move in a different direction, and that's fine. No big deal. It's just needing to be clear about it, because this is, if you look at this would be the equivalent of the Ten of Pentacles, which is the happy life, fulfillment. This is about feeling very solid, very clear, going forward in life in a really real complete way. This is the marriage, home, business, everything feeling aligned, everything feeling positive, everything feeling really good. That's what the feminine is feeling in the spiritual, and ready to bring that to earth. So it's really like the feminines are saying, okay, great. I like the idea of having spiritual prosperity on a spiritual realm, but I really want to have that in the earth realm too. And that's what the feminines are doing. If you see this Seven of Pentacles, interesting energy, because what I'm seeing is literally feminines reaching up into the heavens and plucking out like this apple and bringing it down into the earth. Like feminines really taking the steps and taking the doing what needs to be done to be able to bring that to pass, because that's what the feminine wants. The feminine is ready. The feminine is very, very ready to be able to move forward and to have an experience within the physical reality about that mirrors the spiritual reality. And that's just it. That's where the feminine is right now. It's just in a space of like, I'm putting in the effort. I've been putting in the effort. I've put in a lot of work, and now I'm ready to reap the harvest of what I've done in the real world. And there's also a period of reflection that the feminines are in. What has been working? What hasn't worked? What do I need to adjust going forward? How am I going to shift my experiences in the future? But there's really this, I've been working hard, I've put in the effort, and now I'm ready to reap the harvest in the real world. I'm ready to bring it down into the real world. So I'm going to use the Healing with the Angels card deck, and I'm going to pull just one message for what is the masculine healing and another message for what is the feminine healing. I hope you like this reading. It feels really resonant to me, so I'm liking it. So what is the masculine healing? Forgiveness. And the feminine? Power. Oh my God, I love this. So the masculine energy right now is working on forgiveness. They're needing to, part of their healing is in learning to forgive. Excuse me while I take a sip of tea. A spot of tea. The masculine is really needing to be able to move into a space of forgiveness in order to move these energies forward. In order to get unstuck, the masculine is going to have to spend some time working with forgiveness. Forgiving themselves, forgiving people in their past, forgiving parents, old lovers, people who caused them pain or harm in the past. The masculines are really going to have to work through that in order to be able to move forward in the direction that they want to go in. And so that's what they're working on. And that's what the angels are working on with them. This is, like I said, the Healing with the Angels cards by Doreen Virtue. I don't really use a lot of Doreen Virtue's cards anymore, but I felt led to pull this deck out today, so that's where we are. And what this is saying to me is that the masculines are really needing to release and move forward into space of forgiveness for this next phase. And that's what they're doing, and that's what their angels are supporting them with. The Power card for the feminine, I love this. A lot of the feminines, part of what is needing to be healed is embracing and stepping into your own power. Recognizing that you have the power, that you've always had the power, and that if you felt like you didn't, it was just an illusion, it wasn't accurate. And Spirit is wanting the feminines to heal, they're owning their power, recognizing that you have the power to shift, to alchemize your circumstances, that you're not a victim to the situation, that you're not powerless or helpless, that you don't have to sit around and wait for somebody to come rescue you. I posted in the community tab, if you're not following the community tab on my page, I would recommend it. I post and share some things, but one of the things that I shared recently was characteristics of the wounded feminine. And one of the characteristics of the wounded feminine is about feeling helpless or powerless or needing to be rescued, waiting for that knight in shining armor. When you are healed, when you're whole and you step into your divinity, you recognize that you're the hero that you've been waiting for, and you can rescue yourself. You don't have to be like Rapunzel trapped in a tower. You can figure out a way out. And that's what the feminines are healing right now. Really owning their power, healing any wounds to their femininity that tell them that they need to be rescued, and being able to step forward into this next phase with power and alignment. Beautiful messages. So I'm going to pull some messages from the self-care cards on, this is by Cheryl Richardson. And just what is it that the masculine is doing or needs to do to support themselves with self-care in this time? And again, one for the feminine. Okay, so for the masculine, with the masculine, wow, release. It says, have a good cry. Grief is the doorway to your deepest self. Oh my gosh, that is beautiful. So masculines, if you're watching, part of what you need to do along with the forgiveness, self-care work, is to release. Excuse me, feminines, rejuvenation. Get a good night's sleep. Rejuvenate your body, mind, and spirit. I mean, that literally was something that I felt like came through earlier. I don't remember if that word exactly came through, but part of with the resurrection energy is that we need to, feminines need to take care of yourselves. Rest, exercise, nurture yourselves, feed your body, take care of your soul, get some good sleep. If you've been having trouble sleeping, just really get some rest. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself, because as you do that, as you take care of yourself, it's going to help move through this energy through. So, final messages, and this is from The Language of Letting Go, read by Melody Beatty. And this is just what does the masculine have to let go of, and what does the feminine have to let go of in order to move things forward. Because it is go time, you know. People are going to start seeing things happening very quickly if you haven't already. So, I feel like I'm just going to shuffle and pull one for the masculine. So what does the masculine need to let go of? This is focusing on substance. Today I will focus on the substance in my life. I will fill in the lines of myself with the real person, me. I will concentrate on the substance of my relationships in the other areas of my life, not the trappings. So for a lot of the masculines, and this has come through quite a bit, it's been about how things look. It's been about images and appearances, keeping up with the Joneses, and what they're needing to do now and what they need to let go of is that keeping up with the Joneses. What will people think of me? How will I go forward? If I follow my heart and I leave other circumstances behind, how will that reflect on me? And Spirit's saying they need to let go of holding on to that. Focus on what really matters instead of what illusions or what image you're projecting out into the world. So what do the feminines need to let go of? Waiting patiently. Today I will wait patiently. If waiting is the action I need in order to take care of myself, I know that I'm taking positive, forceful action by waiting until the time is right. God, help me to let go of my fear, urgency, and panic. Let me learn the art of waiting. That's something I see quite often from feminines, especially in the comments on my videos. I've been waiting for so long. When is this going to happen? And I don't feel like, when I say waiting, I don't feel like living your life on pause and holding on for somebody to maybe come back around. I don't feel like that's what this card is saying. What it means to me is really about taking inspired action, doing what you've been guided to do, and being patient, letting go of the urgency, letting go of the attachment, recognizing that if this connection is meant to come around and it's meant to be yours, then it will. Nothing can stop it because it's divinely orchestrated, it's divinely guided. And if it's not meant to be, then it's not meant to be and you can release it. But as long as you have that urgency, as long as you have that fear, the panic sense of when are they going to come back around? I've been waiting for such a long time. You're actually repelling the energy that you want to attract. Remember, when we're needy and desperate and clingy, that's when we get into that chaser energy, where even if we're not contacting them, even if we're not, texting them relentlessly or literally or metaphorically chasing them, if our energy is, they can feel it. And when people are being chased, they're gonna run. That's just sort of how it is. And so this card is literally saying, for a lot of the feminines, part of what you need to let go of is this need to wait around with fear, urgency, and attachment and expectancy. This is saying, go about your life, live your best life, do you, and let go of the fear and just be patient and allow for divine timing. Being patient doesn't mean, again, that you sit on the sidelines waiting. This could mean that you go out on dates and you meet soulmates and other people that you want to connect with, and you have a filled joyous, full life while you're working out the other stuff with your counterparts so you can move things forward. So I hope that this reading was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. Take care. Bye.